Something unusual is happening behind closed doors in Formula One. Over the past few weeks, whispers have started to move through paddock corridors, simulation departments, and FIA technical offices. What began as a quiet internal discussion has now grown into something far more serious. A set of confidential data linked to Red Bull's 2026 power unit program has surfaced in limited technical circles, and what it suggests has left rival manufacturers deeply unsettled. Ferrari, Audi, and Honda have reportedly already approached the FIA with formal concerns. Not because Red Bull is accused of cheating, not because they are suspected of manipulating fuel flow or bypassing hybrid limits. The concern is far more complicated than that. According to multiple insiders, Red Bull may have found a way to build an engine that behaves differently under heat, not in a small, marginal way, but in a fundamental, game-changing way. The leaked simulations appear to show a power unit that becomes more efficient as temperatures rise, turning what has always been an enemy of performance into a performance amplifier. And here's the part that makes this situation truly explosive. Under the current wording of the 2026 regulations, there is no clear clause that forbids this behavior, which means if Red Bull is allowed to finalize and homologate this design before the FIA introduces any clarifications, that concept could become legally protected for years. One green light from the governing body could lock in a massive advantage before a single wheel has even turned in Bahrain. But there is also a looming risk on the other side. Red Bull Powertrains is still a young manufacturer. Their first fully independent engine project has never been tested in competitive racing conditions. If the FIA suddenly moves to redefine combustion behavior late in the development cycle, Red Bull could be forced to redesign critical architecture under extreme time pressure, something that could easily lead to reliability problems, power losses, or even a complete performance collapse in the early part of the season. Publicly, the FIA has said nothing. No official statements, no technical bulletins, no visible amendments. Everything looks normal on the surface, but internally, the mood is very different. Technical departments from multiple teams are now engaging in what insiders describe as early-stage containment activity, preparing arguments, legal interpretations, and regulatory positioning before the issue becomes public. The leaked Red Bull data appears to reveal an engine philosophy that is radically different from what anyone expected for 2026. When the new rules were written, the intention was to simplify combustion design, reduce development costs, and prevent extreme technical divergence. Instead, Red Bull may have found a way to use that simplification as a doorway to innovation no one else prepared for. Rather than fighting heat, their engine seems to use it. In traditional combustion engines, rising temperature typically leads to power loss, efficiency drop, and component stress. But the Red Bull simulations reportedly show a reverse pattern. Under sustained thermal load, power delivery becomes more stable, torque curves remain consistent, and in some operating windows, output even increases slightly. It is a subtle gain, but in Formula One, subtle gains are often the difference between winning and disappearing. What makes this even more significant is that this behavior appears structural, not software-based. This is not something that can be copied by adjusting ignition maps or rewriting hybrid deployment strategies. Rival teams who attempted to replicate the effect using conventional engine models were reportedly unable to do so without violating energy limits or creating unsafe mechanical stress. In other words, Red Bull may have built the concept into the engine itself. This is why panic has begun to spread quietly among the manufacturers. Because if this architecture is locked in through homologation, no one else can legally replicate it. Not in one season, not in two, and possibly not until the next regulation cycle. Ford's involvement adds another layer of complexity. This is their first major return to Formula One power unit development in decades, and suddenly their name is attached to what could become the most disruptive engine concept of the modern hybrid era. There is no suggestion of wrongdoing. But if Ford is seen as the partner behind an engine that redefines legal performance boundaries, it dramatically elevates their technical credibility across the global motorsport and automotive industries. And credibility in Formula One is not just marketing value. It attracts talent, sponsors, and long-term influence. What makes the situation even more uncomfortable is the sense that Red Bull did not stumble into this concept accidentally. Insiders suggest that their entire engine program appears deliberately tailored to a very specific interpretation of the 2026 rulebook. Their thermal mapping, ignition strategies, pressure control, and energy deployment logic all appear aligned around exploiting areas where the regulations speak in general terms rather than strict prohibitions. It is as if they were not simply designing an engine, they were designing a regulatory response. The leak itself did not come through a journalist or external breach. It reportedly emerged through routine compliance data submitted to the FIA during early homologation analysis. Portions of anonymized simulation files were viewed by rival manufacturers through shared technical evaluation channels, and what they saw raised immediate alarm. The most concerning discovery was found in mid-load thermal cycles. Instead of showing the expected power fade as engine temperature climbed, the Red Bull model showed stability and then slight improvement. Across multiple runs, across multiple conditions. This was not random behavior. It was repeatable, predictable, designed. Mercedes is believed to have conducted internal replication studies using their own engine models. Their engineers reportedly failed to reproduce the behavior without exceeding regulatory energy limits or damaging engine components, which confirmed one thing: Red Bull's advantage is structural. According to technical sources, Red Bull may be using a form of delayed or staggered ignition phasing that broadens the pressure curve inside the combustion chamber. This allows mechanical work to be extracted over a longer period during each piston cycle, effectively generating more usable energy from the same fuel quantity without increasing stress in traditional ways. It is like running a higher compression engine without paying the normal mechanical penalty. Audi engineers reportedly described the system as thermally parasitic, an engine that feeds on heat instead of being harmed by it. Ferrari reportedly labeled it a legal compression enhancer. Honda engineers used a more dramatic internal term, thermal trapdoor, because once the engine crosses a certain temperature threshold, a second performance curve activates, and from that point forward, rivals cannot follow. What truly frightens the grid is not just the innovation itself, but its timing. Red Bull's engine appears to be nearly finalized. That means homologation protection could soon lock it into the regulation framework. And once locked, the FIA cannot retroactively ban it without rewriting the rules mid-season, something that historically triggers political warfare. This is why rival teams are pushing quietly, not publicly protesting yet, but lobbying for a preemptive clarification before Red Bull closes the door. Because once that door is closed, the championship battle may be decided before it even begins. And yet, another unsettling possibility has emerged. Some of the leaked simulation data appears incomplete. Certain telemetry overlays are missing. Some electrical and thermal integration layers are redacted, which raises a chilling possibility that what rivals are seeing may not even be Red Bull's final version. If that is true, then the grid is not panicking over the real engine. They are panicking over its shadow. Unlike previous controversies, like Ferrari's fuel flow investigation or Mercedes' DS system, there is no clear component to examine, no illegal device to point at. Red Bull's power unit appears to operate entirely within the framework the FIA itself created, which means the governing body is not chasing a violation. They are chasing a regulatory blind spot, and blind spots are much harder to fix. The 2026 regulations define fuel flow, hybrid deployment, electrical output, and recovery systems in precise numerical limits. But combustion behavior itself is described only in broad efficiency targets and emissions intent. There are no restrictions on temperature-reactive torque generation, no limits on dynamic ignition strategies that respond to heat, no clauses that forbid systems from becoming stronger under stress. The FIA did not ban these concepts because they never believed someone would design an engine around them. Now they are facing a dilemma. If they introduce clarifications now, they risk being accused of rewriting the rules to stop one team. If they wait, they risk locking in a technological monopoly that could dominate the sport for years. And time is not on their side. Homologation deadlines are approaching fast. Once Red Bull submits its final architecture, it becomes protected by procedure, not secrecy. Even if the FIA later recognizes the problem, changing the rules would require broad political agreement, which historically almost never happens once championships are mathematically affected. This is the real trap. If the FIA waits for on-track evidence, they may arrive too late to prevent competitive damage. And inside the paddock, there is growing belief that Red Bull predicted this exact situation, that they did not simply design an engine, they designed a regulatory inevitability, that they read every line of the rulebook not as a limit, but as an invitation. And that is what keeps rival teams awake at night. Because if this system is allowed to stand, it sets a precedent. It opens the door to a new era of rulebook engineering, where championships are decided not by speed alone, but by who can think farthest ahead inside regulatory silence. The leak may only be the beginning, not the scandal, not the climax, just the warning. And if nothing changes, Formula may first soon discover that the 2026 season was decided long before the lights go out in Bahrain.